10, 9, ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to the Alien Pro Podcast. It's Saturday, August 13th, 2022. I'm Doug, joined again today by Dr. Bill. What's up, Bill? What's new?
Hey, nothing much. What's up
We've
with you?
discussed everything. Oh,
Yeah.
everything I just talked about in the last hour and a half.
Yep, we're done. Everything's good.
Our past.
So you got
Which
the
we
date.
can't talk about.
You got the date in there. Today
I
is
got the date, who we are, what the show is.
what the show is.
And we're going to talk about a couple things. We won't list them because sometimes we don't get through everything.
So we are going to start with the Unsolved Mysteries, the Berkshire UFO.
Yeah, this is from 2019.
2019. Oh.
You know, so it's a couple years old. And it was from an event that was from, what is it, Labor Day? September 1st, 1969.
Yep. September 1, 1969.
And they had, it's interesting because they had a UFO that was in Berkshires. I guess it's the county. Is that the county? Or it's funny because
Berkshire County, Massachusetts.
So it flew from, it had 3 different sets of people at least. And they depicted and they interviewed as these people are obviously older. You know, they were 10 and 12 back then.
Yep.
And, you know, they have a Tom, and then a Tom, THOM.
Yep.
And then, you know, they,
Tom Reed,
they were
Tom
abducted.
Warner, Tom Reed.
And they were the Warners are the 6th generation, and they owned a Rexall store.
Yep. And the town is Great Barrington, Massachusetts.
And did you notice after each abduction, they would show the path of the flying saucer across the county? I didn't know this the first time I watched it. I thought it was just a video. I didn't notice that's what it was depicting.
They did a very structured presentation of this information. They were presenting the witnesses in sort of chronological order, I think, in time, and then a map was to locate them in space. Another thing that was really good about this show is that the witnesses, and they were doing corroboration, if that's the right word. They were doing showing the witnesses' statements, and other people's were supporting the statements of the witnesses, which was extremely, extremely well done. It's the best. I think it's the best UFO type presentation I've ever seen for a show.
Well, besides Barney and Betty Hill, I think this is the best example of an possible alien abduction. I'm not a big, I think we've talked about this before. I'm not a huge abduction fan. I don't, although I've got a guy, one of the gentlemen that's going to come on the show they always have a friend who's not sure if he would want to come on the show, but has been abducted. And it's interesting because these people aren't young. You know, it's one thing to have when you're a teenager and somebody has a story, you know, but these guys are older and, you know, they have a story about how they were abducted and what happened.
The people in the Berkshire or your friend?
My friend.
Okay.
My co-worker.
Okay.
He has a friend. And then our JC, who came on the show some months ago, who was in the Rancho Cordova and saw that weird looking spacecraft.
That was extremely cool. There's a description of what he saw.
And he drew that drawing. Was pretty badass.
Yeah.
And he has a friend that he also would, you know, he was talking about having come on, and I'll probably reach out to him and see if, you know, we can talk about that. We've got to start having set this up where we can have some guests. But yeah, so this is a really cool story. Like you said, they corroborate. This is what you're looking for, you know, witnesses that corroborate other people's stories. And it was good.
Yeah, yeah. The one kid saw like he had a voice tell him, that was Tom
EOM, Tom.
Tom Warner, who's
Yeah.
lived in the town, his family's lived in the town for 6 generations.
He was coloring over at the neighbor's house, and he has
Yeah,
to stay in the lines because she would tell him,
stay in
Tom,
the
you know,
lines. Who was the
color
other
within the lines.
who was the other woman that was supporting his story? What was her relationship? Do you remember?
He was the one that said she was a friend that, well, she wasn't a friend at the time. She,
No, that's the
no, no,
younger
no.
woman.
Oh, you know, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah. No,
older
this
woman.
is the one. Yeah, this is the one that he was coloring with. That when he went to the house,
Yeah.
he was running and he was like being elevated off the
Well,
ground and running.
yeah, and he had the voice tell him. That's very biblical, that type of
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
Because
It's
there's a story in the Bible about Saul, who was on his way to Jerusalem. Saul was one of he was like the prosecutor against Christians, and he had a light blind him, shine down from the heavens and blind him, and a voice that only he could hear. So it's just like this is a very. When I saw
oh,
this
that is
thing,
a
I go,
good.
"Wow, this is a really biblical type. These abduction things. It's a very biblical type story."
Well, the
So
Bible is like a history book, right? Or
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't
So
read it from cover to cover, but
this stuff is supposed to be considered um fairly accurate, and this was. I was thinking it's Acts, written by Luke. But anyway, I just saw that. I thought that was interesting that it was. I haven't read that much of the Bible either, so I just thought it was
oh,
interesting that the hearing the voice and having the light. I go, wait a minute, I've seen this story before. So I'm not a big abduction person, but you
yeah,
could
I'm
you
not
could
either. But
say
this is an excellent representation of if there was a real abduction. That
this was a great story. The witnesses were very compelling. I do have a few questions. Is it like the guy Tom Warner, the voice told him to go home, and he ran out the door at full speed, and he was like running in place for like 5 minutes, and I think that older woman that was saw that, and he was just like running and not going anywhere,
yeah,
and then the UFO dropped from the sky and then beamed him up, and he says his hands jerked back, air sucked out of him, and he disappeared. That's what she said. And then 2 miles from him, there was Melania Kirchdorfer. She was in a car with her parents. And what did they say? There's a bright
they were
light
going to
dad.
ice cream.
Yeah, they're going for ice cream. And I have a quote, but I don't know if it's the right quote, so I'm not going to read it. But they something happened. A UFO showed up, and the next thing she knew, she was like out in the middle of nowhere and had to
Yeah,
walk home.
she was by the lake.
Yeah.
They dropped her at the lake, and then she had to walk home. But in the meantime, she saw Tom in the ship, right? Where Tom saw her,
Tom saw her, I think, and she doesn't
and
remember seeing it, but he remembers seeing her. And
so they were together with a bunch of other children that all of a sudden were like just pop, 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 just disappearing.
on the ship.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, they said there was other children. Now maybe I wouldn't want to speculate as if they were aliens or anything.
Yeah.
There was no discussion about aliens on the ship, which leads into are there no aliens, and are these things drones, and
I don't know.
is this an experiment that they do to when they go to other planets to check out the wildlife and see,
Yeah.
evaluate
Yeah.
them to see, what's going on.
Well,
I mean that.
I watched Close Encounters not too long ago. I hadn't seen it in years, and it was like the part where the baby was a little kid was abducted, and then they
Yeah,
brought it back. Brought the aliens brought the kid back. It's like, why are the aliens abducting a little baby? And then I just
yeah,
had this thought. It's like they don't have the kid's father around, and it's like if this had happened in real life, when the baby came walking off the ship, the dad would have walked up to the alien and shot it. That would have been that would have been the right ending. So it's like
Bill's modification.
Yeah,
Of the
who
movie.
who messes with somebody's kids? So yeah, the child abduction stuff is weird and disturbing.
The kid didn't age, right? Or did he
Well, he was
age?
gone for it was like a few weeks. It wasn't like he was gone for 100
Yeah.
years.
Oh,
Like,
I thought it was from like because they had a lot of people from the past. So I
yeah,
don't know if that's
yeah. I go, what? And then Einstein was right. What do you mean he was right?
true.
So what do you mean? It's like they're, yeah. That was a weird line. So and then the show was really good. They did great follow up. They went to the radio station to look for reports, and the radio station didn't have any recordings anymore because they would record over everything.
Yeah.
They went to the police station looking for reports, and the police station didn't have any reports. But they did talk to,
There was the report though. There was a report of beer cans on a lawn,
yeah,
and people were drinking beer in a guy's yard.
yeah.
And that was reported.
They were probably
Had nothing
throwing
to
them,
do with
in the guy's yard.
out the
Um,
window of the car like they did back in the 60s.
yeah, but yeah, it's like but there was like a guy they interviewed that owned the gas station, and his dad was a police chief that owned the gas station, and he had remembered his dad talking about it and people talking about it when he was a kid. So they did a nice follow up on that, and I can't remember the follow up. The follow up on the radio station, just that there wasn't any reports, but they also had a guy that did newspaper archive search, and he didn't see anything. But the guy that did the newspaper search talked to a former newspaper editor from the area, retired editor, and he says a guy remembered the story, but they decided not to write it up.
Yeah, they said they thought it was BS. They
Yeah.
thought it was just some wacko story, so they didn't even print it.
And right around this time, the
But he did remember the story. That was
he
interesting.
remembered the story, and he remembers the decision not to write it up. But around this time, I think that the UFO scientific investigation of UFO report was just coming out, and the consensus was, National Academy of Sciences and the committee that put this report together was like, UFOs are just hallucinations, even though the report had 30% of the sightings as unexplained. So there was a lot of pressure at that time I think this was peak UFO shutdown, where people, it's like, okay, this was right around the time when they're going, okay, UFOs are just nonsense. It's people hallucinating. And if you're talking about it, you're crazy. You're just trying to get attention, or there's something wrong. Yeah, crazy. Trying to get attention, or you're trying to scam money or some crap.
Or you're just nuts.
But then there was the guy. Who else was it? So there was the one guy was beamed up. The girl was beamed up, and supposedly her family. And then who was the ones that was in the car where the people switched position? The mom.
Yeah, the grandmother. Yeah, they said they like woke up and they were in town. And there was a time difference, and then grandmother didn't drive.
She was in the driver's seat.
They had swapped places.
Which person was that? Was that the third?
That was the girl. That was.
No, she was left. She was with her brother and her mom and dad. And no, that was Tom. The grandmother with
no,
that was Tom. That was Tom with an H. That was Tom Reed. Was the one where they family owned the local restaurant. They were considered to be outsiders, and he's the one who remembers seeing Melanie in the spaceship. And they're the ones that woke up in the car on Main Street with the mom and the grandmother and switched.
Yeah.
And he was saying that they were pretty much, I felt sorry for these guys. He said they're pretty much run out of town after this.
Yeah, they were ostracized for
and then Tom Reed, whose family lived in the area for 6 generations, he just reached the point where he said, I just didn't talk about it anymore.
Warner, what's their name? Warner or something?
Tom Warner. And he just said, I just didn't talk about it anymore because I'd start to talk about it and people just look at me weird and I would lose
Yeah.
friends. So,
Yeah. You're a crazy guy.
yeah,
He's a
it's
crazy
just,
guy.
what's wrong with you, man?
We would have
Um,
loved to have seen somebody that saw something.
yeah. Otherwise, I definitely have to save this Netflix Unsolved Mysteries on the Berkshire UFOs was right now I'd put it at the best UFO little documentary that I've seen. As
Yes.
far as the
So
craftsmanship,
definitely, yeah.
yeah.
It was well told. It was well documented.
Hmm.
Um, it's just I definitely would recommend if people are interested in abduction theory that
Theory.
they check this out.
Yeah, yeah, it's worth watching. It's very well done. As a follow-up to that, Tom Reed there's the covered bridge which his family had driven through in their car, and once they got through the covered bridge is when they were beamed or whatever happened. He had a plaque put in. That covered bridge looks like on the pictures and stuff, it looks like a little park around the bridge. They preserved the bridge, and then there's like grass on either side. I guess it's just like a little park. And he had gone through the whole process of having a little monument put in with a plaque, and apparently the plaque has like the governor's signature on it. And that had been up for years, a couple years or something like that. And then the city decided, somebody in the city, I guess, decided they didn't like it. And the governor's office came out and said, we didn't know what we were signing or some crap. And the city said, oh, it wasn't properly permitted to put it in, even though they went through the whole process and put it in. It's like, how could you not, it's been there for years. How could you not realize that it's proper? And then the city said he had to remove it. And he didn't respond, because why should he? So the city took out the monument that he put into the events that happened, which I thought was interesting because it's what you would expect. I think this happened before all this other UFO stuff came out with the government.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they took his monument down that he'd gone through all the process, raised the money, got the governor's signature on something for it, and the city said no. We make the rules. It's like our government now, right? We make the
Yeah.
rules, and we're changing them right now because we don't agree with something. So
Yeah.
new
Free run.
rules,
Yeah.
new rules, like new
Change the
rules.
rules. I like it.
We're changing the rules. Everything new rules. You are now a criminal. We
Yeah.
guarantee it.
It's the Tuck rule of UFO history.
Tuck rule.
So,
The Tuck rule.
yeah, it's a football thing.
Oh.
So yeah. So anyway, it's at the end they have a phone. It's interesting. Did you see the end where it has a phone number? If anybody else witnessed it or has any more
Yeah.
information about the incident, there's a phone number you can call.
I didn't see that. I did, but I
Yeah.
don't remember it. I didn't make a note of
Yeah.
it.
So I found that, and they showed the Tic Tac gimbal video and showing that to try to support the story of they said it looked like your typical the witnesses. It's your typical flying saucer. It looked like one described it as a turtle shell
Yeah.
with big on top and small on the bottom. It had like a ring around the edge, and it's interesting, that it fits the bill of a standard flying saucer.
Yeah.
But they said it was 100 yards long. Well, one of the
Yeah.
accounts said that it was 100 yards wide, which that'd be pretty good size and able to carry things and
Yeah. Carry
move
lots of
about.
children.
Take the children.
We can fit lots of children in here.
I don't know if I want to take a bunch of children, because it's like,
Well, you don't know what these aliens are doing. Look at Spielberg's movie. They're taking the children, the baby. Why take a baby? Like I said, the right way to finish that movie is like the dad walking up and shooting the alien after they stole his kid. Who knows what those aliens were doing with the kid? They were probing the baby. So, hey, there was another thing that you sent me, which was an interview with Mike Masters, who wrote a book saying that the space aliens. He's speculating. He's a professor of anthropology at North Dakota Tech or something. Make a note. I don't care. And he wrote a book speculating that carefully, cautiously, because he doesn't want to jeopardize his reputation too much, that aliens are time-traveling humans from the future, which is an interesting alternative hypothesis to space aliens from another planet.
Oh, he says they're aliens from the future?
He says they're humans from the future that have changed to look like they do, like the gray.
That's my theory. That was always my theory.
Okay,
Remember?
all right. So you're ahead of the curve on this.
Remember, I've mentioned this many times on this show. That's my theory. I tell people. I told the gentleman at work we had a lengthy discussion. It was him. He saw a UFO also. Down in Mexico, I think. And I don't know if he's in Mexico. I think they were traveling in Vegas. I'm not quite.
Was this the one on the beach? I thought that was a woman.
No, that was a woman, and she was there too. So the three of us were having this discussion at work.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. All right.
The three of us were having a discussion. So together we all were discussing. I told him about my theory about that. And he said, "Well, you got the cell phone here. How did we come about that?" And I said, "Well, it's reverse engineered. It's part of reverse engineering from 47. And look, we go through the whole thing about how we advanced so quickly, all of a sudden, right after Roswell, and so I told him about my theory. He didn't agree, by the way. My theory about there's no way we can look like that. I go, we're talking hundreds of thousands of years, and look what we've changed from how many years, you might know this, since we were Neanderthals, looking like how long
Neanderthal is a different subspecies of human, and supposedly we could mate with them. Neanderthals are 100,000 extinct for 100,000, but the thought is that we bred them out of extinction. So the groups merged. We might have killed them. They were very robust. They were very heavily built and tough. So we might have out-thunk them because we got bigger brains or better brains. But there was, and then before that, there was Homo habilis, which was essentially humans. They made tools, they made fire, and that was 2 or 3 million years ago. My numbers might be off.
But so we have evolved from. You don't think we evolved from them directly?
Yeah, we did. I mean, Neanderthals were like a separate grouping population that was had were different than us. They were heavier bone structure. I think the brain size was slightly different, but not much different. Heavier brow ridge. A Neanderthal, going up against a Neanderthal, it's basically take the biggest, baddest football player you can think of, and that would be a Neanderthal average person, man.
Yeah. So
they were extremely tough and probably very good at surviving in colder climates, but I don't know. My anthropology is decades old.
It's just really, we're already evolving in just what I've noticed. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but even early generation before us, people were a lot hairier. You know what I mean?
I don't.
Do you ever notice that?
I think people are less hairier because they were shaving it off.
No, well, that too. But even I don't. I don't have. My dad had these. Had real hairy arms.
Your dad was a Neanderthal, man.
But other people, other people's dads, and they're the generation from us. We're hairy. I think we're already evolving, and nobody wants to admit we're already changing.
Yeah, so, I think it's too slow. I think I would have to say that your hairy hypothesis is anecdotal. You're going to have to document it. So you need to take your clipboard and you go out and you need to check off hairy versus not hairy.
Well,
now
most of them are dead now. So, but just look at your pictures.
My pictures?
You can see it. Well, it's your typical scientist. You're just going to debunk, you're going to debunk my theory out of hand.
No, I'm not debunking it out of hand. I was just saying you
support my hypothesis.
Yes, okay. We are evolving to be less hairy. You're right.
So to my point, hundreds of thousands a year you've already are changing
Now,
right now.
I need to point out that you're in California. You have a lot of Mexicans, South Americans, and Asians, right?
Yeah.
Those groups
Yeah.
are not hairy.
Are you saying that we're mating with those instead of like between
No,
ourselves?
I mean you're seeing a significant part of the population is going to be those groups. Those groups are not
Yeah.
hairy. So when you
Are
look
they
at a
still
person,
hairy?
they are not
Okay,
hairy.
they
They
don't
are.
have them. How about you're in Florida? They're hairier still.
Hell, I don't know. I mean, I'm
You
gonna
need to
start
start
documenting it.
observing some arms, some older
I
people
was
arms.
just talking
Go
to
into
just talking to my neighbor, and a couple of my neighbors are these hairy old men, hoary.
yeah. Now we're not. That's my
No,
point. You
okay, you're
know,
right. I
it's
agree.
one
Wow,
generation. We're
one
already losing our
generation.
hair.
It's
We're
your
already losing our
yeah,
hair. We're getting smooth. And
yeah.
so
It's
now,
gone, just gone.
wind forward hundreds of thousands of years, we not only are less hairy, but we look like aliens.
Yeah, why
You
100?
know, we evolved.
Why not 4 generations in the future? You're talking about some seriously rapid evolutionary change.
There's a lot of things changing, not
Hairy,
only less hairy right now, that
hairy.
are leading me to believe that we might be evolving into a significantly different life form
Life
than,
form, like a
you know,
amoeba.
well, we could go. Who knows what's
Maybe,
going to happen
maybe.
that far in the
I'm just gonna
future?
say maybe because I don't want to argue with you. Yeah, you're right.
No, we're just having a discussion. You know, it's like,
I can't.
it's
Next
just
thing I
my
know, you're gonna
theory
start talking about Trump and how good a president he was.
is going
Uh,
to be.
is gonna be, yeah. um,
Yeah, we can't talk about that. It's politics.
I
Hey, did you see which they had a new movie? What was it? The girl, Super Batgirl, or
That
what
girl
was that
movie
new
was
movie?
canceled. Yeah, we talked about that
Yeah,
last time. It
did we talk about
it
it?
was we did the last time. It was apparently it was so bad. They showed it to audiences and it was so bad and the response was so terrible that they just said we're not good. We're just done. We can't even fix this.
It's
It's
not even worth releasing.
not worth releasing. And if they take a write-off, if they do a tax write-off on it, which is going to be $150 million, if they do a tax write-off, they can never ever release it unless, but then they'll have to give the money back. So it's like a reverse. If you release it, you
Burn
bet.
it.
Yeah.
How
No,
do you better burn it?
it's gonna go on
It's
a
gonna
hard
come out.
drive somewhere, and
Everything gets released.
they were yeah, but that's what I read. If they release it, they have to pay taxes on it, and they'll lose their write-off. So if in order to release it, the accountants are gonna have to say they will need a minimum $150 million return. So
Speaking of entertainment, what about Salman Rushdie?
yeah, that's just shocking. Yeah, let's not get into that. That's just terrible.
You don't want to talk about Salman?
No, I mean the guy wrote a book that offended the Khomeini of Iran, who did a fatwa upon him, and now somebody after 30 something years has finally acted upon it, and it's just horrible. It's horrible
He
what
was
happened to him.
attacked before, also, wasn't he? This isn't the first time, is it?
He's had really good security. I can remember years ago reading about him living in London, and he had like London police would guard him and stuff. So he was considered a target for a long time, and it looks like it's been so long they decided that he didn't need to have personal security anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it sounds like he's bad. Like he was stabbed like 17 times
yeah,
in
it
a
was
very
very
like
bad. It's very
an
bad.
eye. Might have lost an eye.
Yep. So
What did he write about? Do you know anything about
no,
what he?
I've never read
I've
any.
heard of him, but
I've
I've
never read
never.
anything by him. I mean, he's been a celebrity, but I don't know, because of what he wrote, he offended people, and that was his. As far as I could tell, that was his celebrity. I don't. Other than that, I don't know anything. So coming
All
back
right,
to time
moving
traveling
on.
humans,
Yeah, which are us.
which are us. Um, so what about Sasquatch? People think that Sasquatch is some sort of interdimensional time being. So
Well, that would ruin my philosophy,
maybe
though,
Sasquatch
because
is from the future, and that's our future humans, are real hairy people.
well, they're from either in dimensional travel. It's different. They're from. Speaking like I know,
You're an expert.
I surmise that it's interdimensional. I think that's an interdimensional travel because we don't find any, not a shred of evidence. With all these game camera, 2 words, game cameras.
Yeah.
There's no reason,
Yeah.
this thing either doesn't exist or it literally doesn't exist, or it comes and goes, and they're like Star Trek. They can't leave any sign. They're observing us.
Or
They can't leave any sign.
maybe
that they were ever
Sasquatch.
there.
Maybe Sasquatch can see in the infrared, so he can see the game cameras.
Maybe.
So anyway, this guy
Yeah.
Mike Masters talking about space aliens. So you think the aliens that might be doing abductions and coming here could be future humans? So he
My
raised.
philosophy about abduction is that there isn't aliens. That it's a drone ship.
So he laid out some things. So people ask the question, why go back in time? And he laid out a couple things which I thought was interesting. He says, tourist to
That's what I
archive.
said too.
Yeah,
Yep.
tourist archive history because they've lost the records to come back and see what happened. And I think that's pretty much it. But he also
ship. It's a cruise ship.
Yeah.
They come back, they pay.
Yeah.
You come back. Remember the Sound of Thunder with Ray Bradbury? I was just discussing this at work too, where they would go back in time.
Yeah.
And they made to where the Tyrannosaurus Rex they knew was going to die in this, tar pit.
Yeah.
And they would actually, the thing would attack and they would shoot it and it would die just like it always did.
Mm-hmm.
But it would, it was like they would pay to go on this thing. So that's just
and
like
you couldn't
that only,
and you couldn't deviate from the timeline. And there was one of the characters in that story stepped on a butterfly and it stuck to their boot and they came back to the future and everything had changed.
Yeah.
Great story.
The writing was backwards.
Yeah. It was a great story.
Bradbury was awesome.
He was. And then he said that he says that his philosophy, and he says he said a consensus of physicists believe this, which is that going back in time is possible because you can't change anything because it's already happened. So the whole thing with Back to the Future, where he goes back and he changes things, he says you can't. He says there's a consensus of physicists. The thing is that there is no such thing as a scientific consensus. It's not a democracy. Yeah. So and they say that with climate change stuff, and it's inappropriate to do that. You can't do that. It's not.
That is an interesting philosophy, though, or not a philosophy, but
that you can't change anything.
You can't, no matter what, because it's what you've done is part of what has happened, even though you're there.
Yeah.
So the butterfly thing is BS, according to that.
To that, the alternative is that you can, like Back to the Future, which is a great premise for a story. It's awesome. But he says you can't, and that's also a great premise to the story, is that you can't go back. And I think Heinlein wrote a story, All You Zombies, and I think which is sort of a convoluted time traveling story, but it's in that frame where you can't really change anything because it's already happened. So whatever you're doing when you're time traveling is preordained. So if you go back, so it's like the thing, go back and this is the most stupid thing. What would you do if you could go back? What would you do if you could go back in time?
What would I do?
Yeah.
I would probably could go back and there's so many things. Though,
pick
I'd like to see. Probably, I would like to see my natural father.
Oh, while he was running around.
While he was doing his
stuff.
As because he was a commander, on a couple of different ships.
It was a big deal. In
the Navy. Yeah, he was a big deal. And in the Panama Canal.
He was a BFH.
What's a
big fucking hero?
Big fucking hero. He was.
Yeah,
he was awesome. That was a great find.
7 battle stars. My dad only has 5 battle stars.
I know. My dad beats your dad. Battle stars.
My dad.
But that's a great, That's a great philosophy, though, that you can go back in time and do anything you want and it doesn't change
because it's
anything.
already
That is,
happened. Yeah.
I never thought about that before. But that is part of what has happened of you going back in time, so it doesn't change anything.
Yeah. I mean,
That is.
it's an interesting.
Remember the Final Countdown with Kirk Douglas? That was one of my favorite movies where they go back
It was.
on the carrier.
I don't think I watched it recently. I don't think I finished it though.
Oh, dude,
They're going
you
back.
have
It's World War. It's Pearl Harbor, and they're trying to
Pearl
decide whether they
Harbor.
should intervene.
Yeah, they shot down a couple zeros with F-14 Tomcats, the
Okay.
carrier.
which
Jets.
is like that's just sad.
You know,
Can
well,
they even go
were
that slow? Can they go slow enough to do that?
they had to put their wings out, you know, like they're landing to go that slow.
Yeah.
They had to go back. It was weird because it was really good. It's really
I'll check it
really
out.
well made, you
Check it
know,
out.
before Top Gun and all that. And you know, it was a Navy, you know, it was kind of a Navy recruiting.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to permit to use the ships and stuff. You need permission, and then they have guidelines. You have to present a positive image of the military.
Have you seen Top Gun Maverick yet?
No.
You're the last one on the planet.
I think I am. It's going to be streaming soon.
No way. They
The
can't
20,
stream it.
23rd, 10 days. I think I looked it up the other day.
Oh, really?
If I go, I have to go by myself because the wife is working this week, and then she's off on a secret mission the week after that.
Kind of a date night. You know, dinner,
I don't know. We don't have any time. I mean, she's putting in 10-hour days for the next week, and then she's got like a day off, and then she's off to her next off for a week. Off on, you know, she's got a secret mission. They've called her in to do an assassination.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah, it's the usual
Always
stuff.
good to hear.
Yeah, it's always don't
Always
tell
good to
anybody.
hear.
It's one of those things.
Nobody knows, just you and me here.
Yeah, just us. Just keep that between you and me.
Hey, no problem.
Uh,
I didn't know if she did that. I probably won't.
yeah, she doesn't either. She's going to be surprised when she gets to her destination and they hand her her instructions.
She has no idea that she was even going to do it.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
interesting.
She goes, "Here's your mission. Here's your mission parameters."
Mission
Wait. Are you have the wrong person? Yeah.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. Okay. So he says, what else did this guy say? Mike Masters. So you like time traveling humans is your go-to thing.
Yeah, sticking with it.
You like
nobody can prove me otherwise.
Yeah. You like the the point I was going to make is about people. I guess for some reason it's like, what would you do if you could time travel? People go, I would go back and I would kill Hitler.
Oh yeah, that.
So this guy is like, you can never go
That
back.
would change history, though.
Yeah, well, this guy, I don't think it would. This guy is like, if you went back and tried to do that, you couldn't do it because it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And even if you could do it, I think you would just have another party member step forward and fill his role. So I think there's a historical.
But that would be a new history, though. It would change history.
Yeah, but the outcome might still be close enough. Yeah, might be close enough. So his take is you couldn't do it. You go back. This is your mission. You're going to go back. You do it. You would never accomplish your mission because you can't change the past. It's already happened.
Yeah, I subscribe. That's a good theory.
Okay, good.
You can't do it. You can't change history. So don't do something fun like meet your father.
That you could do because if you've already done it, you could go and hang out.
I've already done it. I'm
what
your
else?
son. You'd be freaking.
Yeah, he goes.
doesn't.
You're
Well, he
older
doesn't
than
know
me.
that-
He goes, how can you
Yeah,
be my
yeah.
son? You're like 20 years older than me. Oh,
Yeah, they'd never. Back then, they would never believe that. They're like,
Yeah, they wouldn't.
okay, you're crazy.
the interesting thing, this guy kept saying, he said this a couple times. He kept saying before UFOs were real because of all the revelation stuff with the government, things like that. And I thought that was an interesting way to state things. So it's like they weren't real before. It's like now they're real. So maybe that's an anthropologist. He's a professional anthropologist. So maybe that's sort of the way that he thinks about things, or they think about it.
Well, yeah, because before the 40s, I mean, they were just some. They became
before that,
real when the thing crashed.
they became
They
real.
weren't real. Yeah, they were real when people got real.
Yeah, but
But
he
people,
was saying now they're real ever since the revelations with the gimbal and the TikTok and all that stuff, and
well, a lot more.
the acceptance that they are real is
Yeah,
he's
that makes, you know,
so he probably should add a word to that before UFOs were accepted as real, but he kept saying before UFOs were real.
a lot more people now really consider them something that are a possibility than before after that video came out.
Yes, they do. He also made a really interesting point where he was talking about someone. I guess he I can't remember if he I don't think he put it in his book or he might have put it in his book late. But somebody had pointed out, you know, where the UFOs will fly straight and then do a 90-degree turn.
Yes.
He's saying they may be able to manipulate time. So when they're doing a 90-degree turn, it looks all they've done is they're just going really slow. They're going, you know, they go slow, but for them, time is moving at a different rate. So for them, it's a really gentle, they stop and then they turn 90 degrees and then they go another direction. For us, it looks like they're doing 1,000 G turn. So he threw that out. And that reminded me of a book called, and it was a movie called The Girl, the Gold Watch, and Everything.
Yeah.
You've seen that where the guy had the watch and they'd step
Yeah.
into a higher time dimension. And so he's saying essentially that's a possibility of what's happening with if they can time travel, then they can manipulate time. And somebody had contacted him, said, "What about this idea?" Then they can manipulate time rate. So the fact that they can maneuver so extraordinarily may have nothing to do with aerodynamics, but everything to do with time flow. I thought that was a great observation.
It's good philosophy.
So yeah, that was a good. You sent that to me. That was a good interview. It was interesting. I'm not buying the book and I'm not reading it
No.
because I got too much other stuff. I'll get it eventually, probably. We'll see. We are running at 40 minutes, and
There's switch gears.
let's jump into. You want to talk about that photo, the most spectacular UFO photo ever captured?
Yes, I do.
And I will put that up somewhere. We will see that. I just blew it up and on the image that I've taken from the internet, and I think it's pretty darn good. It's I don't know if it's a flying saucer or a flying wedge. And this was
The one with the aircraft
yeah,
in the background.
that's a Harrier. They identified that apparently and said that it was definitely a Harrier aircraft. And but then when they tried to research this, they're saying that they couldn't find any flight records for
It was from the past. So it was from the past.
the Harriers from the past. So
Yeah, 'cause it
this
was Harrier.
these two guys, two chefs, took a picture on August 4th, 1990.
Does look like a Harrier. Yeah.
Yeah, they just took it outside the Cairngorms National Park in Scotland. They gave they tried to give it to the it's a I don't know, it says they had tornado fighters on 24-hour standby. So it's a tornado fighter, which I'm not familiar with. They gave it to, I guess, a newspaper, and it disappeared into the British military of MOD. Picture the MOD in National Archives. MOD is Ministry of Defense. Yeah, thank you. Ministry of Defense disappeared to the Ministry of Defense. And some guy kept a copy of the picture. It went to the newspapers. Craig Lindsay, RAF officer, kept a copy of the paper, and he says, "I have been waiting for someone to contact about this for more than 30 years." And the speculation is that it's this Aurora spacecraft that can levitate. And I think they said that the craft went straight up into the air, just shot straight up after they took their picture.
Well, they think this thing's ours.
They're thinking that's one of the speculations is that it's the Aurora craft that we are supposed to, that is this mythical.
Yeah, we don't know if that thing. I mean, that's hypersonic.
The Aurora.
Yeah, Project Aurora, that's an American thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so I don't know. It doesn't look like any, who knows what it looks like, but it looks like it doesn't necessarily look, it could be a, depends. I don't know. It looks like a flying saucer to me.
It looks like a flying saucer to me.
Yeah,
I
I
guess
don't know. I don't think it's Project Aurora but I don't,
that's
that's speculation
that's the
also.
speculation. So now they're trying to locate the Ministry of Defense and the National Archives have it's been 30 years and they want to still keep it secret who took these pictures because they would like to so this is something to look forward to is hopefully somebody they will step forward or they want to keep them sealed until 2076 because of privacy concerns. And so
What?
yeah, they're like the names of the people that took the photograph.
Oh. How do we
Keep,
talk to them if they do that?
I don't know. They're
What year was this taken, did you say?
August 4th, 1990.
Well, so they're probably still alive, but were they not allowed to say anything?
I
What's
don't
the
know.
deal?
I don't who knows. It would be this is something to look forward to in the future and that's the yeah, whether these guys come forward and tell their
In the
story.
future.
They won't have much a story. What will be interesting is to say, yeah, they'll just come forward and say, yeah, we took the picture, but it also might be interesting to know if they've been ordered to be silent about this for some reason. So
Yeah.
what's the background on that? And then the other thing I want to touch on is I talked about that picture of the Italian, I think it was an engineer, took a picture of a flying saucer in the Alps, and
And it has does it have an
it
extraterrestrial with it, or
it
what's
has
the
a
deal?
has like a I
Oh, the robot looking thing, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, and I looked
Over.
for last time I looked, which was about a year ago. It was a lot easier to find these pictures, and now I had a really hard time, and this is the only one I could find.
I saw a better one before, it seems to me.
I saw really good
Well,
ones. I don't know where they are, and I wasn't
it
able to find them, but this is a decent one. But
looks like a toy. It's got an antenna sticking
yeah,
out the top
yeah,
of
it
it.
does.
I don't know.
It's got an
I'm not.
antenna
I'm not.
sitting out of the top, and
I'm
then
not sold on the. Looks like a toy.
that's why
Honestly,
I think the guy was labeled as a hoax. But he also has pictures of it taking off.
why would a UFO
Have an antenna?
yeah,
Why?
why would a UFO have an antenna sticking out of it?
Maybe they all
That
do.
just looks like somebody's like that didn't really know what we know. That typically don't have antennas.
Yeah,
I
I
just
don't
think
know.
it looks like a toy. It
I don't
looks like
know.
a,
It
a
does.
well-placed toy. I don't see the robot in this one. Do you see it?
It's to
Let's
the picture I sent you. It's to the left, and he
to the
also looks
left.
like he has an antenna
Yeah, so I guess that's how it communicates with the
with the
spaceship
spaceship.
through their
Yeah,
antennas. I mean, we don't even have antennas now. Look at your car. I mean, I
my
don't know
my
about your
my
car,
car
but
my car has an antenna. What are you talking about?
your 62 Monte Carlo,
Yeah,
or your 72, excuse me, they didn't have 60 Carlo, 74 Monte Carlo
yeah. No, my car has
probably
an
has an
antenna. My
antenna.
car's 14 years
My
old.
my car has what
It has a
typically the newer
shark
cars
fin.
has the shark fin
Yeah.
on the top.
I've thought
So
about
I
I've
don't.
thought about putting one of those on there, but I don't feel like spending I don't know. I looked last time I looked at them, they're like $100. I'm like, nah, I'll just leave the little dinky, little dinky, and it's got a little dinky antenna. I don't care.
Just buy a new car, Bill. Come on, do it, do
Eventually,
it. Give it.
eventually.
You want that comfort. You don't drive that much anyway anymore.
Yeah, that's
I guess
funny
it
because
doesn't matter.
I just filled it up and I keep records of my
The
expenses.
gas almost went bad. It's been in there so long.
Well, I keep records and I went and I just filled it up and then I went back and added it to my my records and my spreadsheet. And I'm like, when's the last time I bought gas? It was 2 months ago.
Yeah,
So
you don't drive very much.
no,
How much
well, the
do
car
we?
gets 45 minimum
Yeah,
miles to the gallon, so it's like I can get a lot of driving. I can go 400 miles on the thing, but it's been it's been so I did about 400 miles in 2 months, so that's not a lot. It's like
well,
50 a week. It's not a lot of driving. It's a small town. I don't have to go far.
Is there very much traffic there? Or is it like,
It's depends. If school's in, there's a lot of traffic. Recently, when I've been running around, my feeling is that traffic's been very light, and I'm wondering if that's because of the price of gas. But it felt it feels a little lighter than it normally would be, and I think than it was a few months ago, and I think it's people just aren't driving more because of the price of gas. That's my guess.
oh,
It's like
COVID?
it's the equivalent to your hypothesis that people are getting less hairy. I have no evidence other than a brief observation just to see that. But it feels like there's less traffic.
Do I need to go to the old folks community and start taking some pictures of people's arms?
You do. You need to document.
And I'm talking males, not females.
Oh, well, you
So
know,
I don't know.
are you sure?
I don't know.
I think, well, I'm not going to go there. So I have this, I sent you this, and it's hashtag think before sharing. And this was provided by the European Commission, and it's titled Conspiracy Theories. What are they? Why do they flourish?
Oh, yes.
So I thought this was fascinating. I also was able to find and download some manuals, which I've looked at. I sent you copies,
Yes.
which are brilliantly written at the third grade level they're government produced or whatever manuals on conspiracy theories and misinformation. But I was thinking just for the last few minutes, we could go over this list with sort of thinking about conspiracy theories and UFOs.
Now, it's important to note this is a government document.
This is from the European Commission, hashtag think before sharing. And
But not America.
Yeah, well, I think some of this, I don't know. The other documents are a great read. I think they're going to provide much interesting future material. So it says, be warned, the COVID-19 pandemic has seen a rise in harmful and misleading conspiracy theories. It may be difficult to recognize them or know how best to deal with them. Now, we're not going to be talking about COVID. That's a whole another can of worms. I want to look at this in the context of UFOs as a conspiracy theory. So, number one, conspiracy theories. What are they? The belief that events are secretly manipulated behind the scenes by powerful forces with negative intent. So, with UFOs, do you believe that powerful forces are secretly manipulating information about UFOs?
Yes, I do, sir.
Yeah, I think that. I agree. That fits. Okay, so.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's go next on the list. Conspiracy theories have six things in common. I didn't even know you could break these down like this. All right, one, UFOs. Is there an alleged secret plot about UFOs?
Yes, I do believe that.
Okay.
Boy, I didn't think I was into conspiracies.
Well, you're doing great. You're doing great. Two, a group of conspirators.
You mean like the
whoever?
Majestic 12?
Yeah, or the government groups of people that are
or a private industry.
Yeah,
that's,
all that.
Reverse engineering for profit. Yes.
So yeah, there are groups of conspirators.
Yes.
Evidence that seems to support the conspiracy theory that the government is hiding information about UFOs.
Well,
you could go. You could go.
Yeah.
Just we didn't get to it today, but we could talk about the Roswell stuff.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stuff there that says there was potentially serious cover up. Oh, this thing we just talked about, the UFO picture from England that was taken in Cairngorms by those two chefs. That's been hidden for 30 years. Why hide this? I mean, it's a nothing photo. It's a triangle. It's a UFO looking thing.
Why not just debunk it right away?
Yeah, just tell. They hid it. They buried it. They're hiding the people that were, or they've gotten rid of the people that took the photo. All right. Number 4, they falsely suggest that nothing happens by accident, and there are no coincidences. Nothing is as it appears, and everything is connected.
Does this mean that there's an explanation for all this, but it's not a UFO? Is that what they're saying? There's a
So
like the reports state
yeah, I think they say
by the
that
government.
everything's fake. Nothing happens by accident.
Yeah,
So
because that's what they're saying. Is with swamp gas or it's a balloon
yeah,
or it's
there's
this or
no
that.
coincidences. So no coincidence. There are no
There's an
coincidences.
explanation. Basically, in the sense of a UFO, there is an explanation for it, but
Yeah,
it's not a UFO.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so that
Yes,
one's a little
check that one.
convoluted in the way they phrase it.
But that's what it
But
means.
yeah. All right. 5, they divide the world into good or bad. So that doesn't really apply.
Not really here, not for
No,
UFOs.
no. All right, I'm going to cross that one out. So that one doesn't really apply. They scapegoat people and groups. No. Well, maybe with telling people that they're crazy and historically crazy and
Well, in the past, but not anymore.
yeah. So
More and more
that's
people
actually changed.
Nowadays, there's open discussion about it, unlike in the '60s and before, where you could literally be committed if you talked as much as we do now about this. We probably would already been in the loony bin.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not really, but nobody takes you seriously, which who
And
knows?
then you're ostracized, like we just discussed
Yeah.
in the Berkshires thing.
So of these 6 things as regards for UFO, I would say 3 things apply, 2 things do not, and 1 is sort of wobbly. So that's leaning in the direction that UFO UAP stuff is not a conspiracy theory. So that's cool. It says, why do they flourish? Why do conspiracy theories flourish? They offer an explanation of events or situations which are difficult to understand and bring a false sense of control and agency. This need is heightened in times of uncertainty, and I'm going to skip the rest because it's about COVID.
Yeah.
Events that are difficult to understand. That's true. So that works. That would fall into say, yeah, it's conspiracy theory. How do they take root? How do conspiracy theories take root? Conspiracy theories often start as suspicion. They ask who is benefiting from the event or situation and thus identify the conspirators. Any evidence is then forced to fit into the theory. So with UFOs, though, the government or defense industry or whoever would benefit from keeping it secret. That's pretty obvious. Because if it's advanced technology,
in that case, it would, yes.
Yeah.
Well, they want to keep it. Well, the other thing is UFOs and extraterrestrials. We talked about religion. I mean, I talked to people, and one of my theories is that we're trying to keep it covered up because it's going to be a huge problem for the religious side of the population. They're not, it's going to really topple their apple cart if they think that we're not,
Yeah.
things didn't happen the way they thought.
Well, I'm not, these days, I think that's a little less than it used to be, but as we were talking about with skinwalkers in the Pentagon, we're reviewing some of that stuff. There was apparently, they were saying there was a religious element in the Pentagon that was against, I guess, like UFO, UAP research.
What about abortion and?
Well, that's not a conspiracy. That's a
Roe versus Wade. Well, no, but I'm talking in respect to religion.
Oh, as far as religion thing. Oh, yeah. There's a strong religious. There's a very strong religious component to that.
Yeah, if you don't think that it's a powerful thing anymore,
okay,
it's not as it used to be. I agree.
You're right.
It's still powerful.
You're right. Okay,
so
you're right. There is a strong religious component. Well, yes, there is a religious component. It's probably not as strong as that, but there is a religious component. It says once they have taken root, conspiracy theories can grow quickly. They are hard to refute because any person who tries is is seen as being part of the conspiracy. I
Yeah.
actually believe that because I look
Yeah.
at the people that were refuting the UFO stuff, like Menzel and that other guy, and even Sagan. And it looks like you look not Sagan, but you look at these two guys that were huge, big debunkers of UFOs, and they fit the idea that they are part of the conspiracy. You can look at these guys and you go, why are they so concerned about this stuff if it's nonsense? Why work so hard to say something's not true? You know? So
Yes.
that's there. And that's why do people spread conspiracy
Like
theories?
NASA, the unexplained files. I mean, the explained files.
Oh yeah. Did I watch? What did I watch? Oh, I watched the little interview with Gordon Cooper. I'm gonna read his biography. I just got it. Got it in the mail.
Good. Oh, no
Just
kidding.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna see what he has to say personally about UFOs. Yeah,
But
he's
you
the
didn't see him on the unexplained files, right? You didn't
yeah.
see
I
that I
watched his
dreamt about.
yeah. I watched his
What I
yeah.
dreamt.
I watched the interview with him and
Oh,
the
really?
yeah. I wasn't able to find the show, but I found the interview of him on YouTube from the show
Oh, really?
for the
Okay.
unexplained files. I saw that
Oh,
little
but
clip.
you never saw the episode though, where it actually had a. They actually did
Oh, recreation.
a recreation
Yeah,
of the whole thing.
I couldn't find the episode or access the episode, and I just I looked, but
Weird.
yeah.
Weird. I should have took. I
Was
almost
it
took a picture
was
in
it
the middle of the night. And I
was
like,
it
whoa.
was it Discovery Plus?
No,
It was
it
something
was
else.
history, or it was NASA. Usually, I'll turn on the channel,
All right.
whatever it was, history or
I'll,
whatever that's got Nat Geo or whoever.
all right. I'll
And yeah, I did what you did. I looked at every episode. It doesn't have a description. Like sometimes they don't put
they don't have
everything
good
they do.
they don't have good descriptions. Yeah.
Yeah, but seem to remember June 22nd, but
I
there's
couldn't.
not a June 22nd
Yeah,
episode,
that
so I must have dreamt it. I don't
yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I
know.
spent some time trying to figure that out.
I don't know.
Thank you for
Now you got to watch every episode to find
I'm
out.
not. I have lots to do. I said, why do people spread conspiracy theories? There are different reasons. Most believe they are true. Others deliberately want to provoke, manipulate, or target people for political or financial reasons. That doesn't really apply to UFOs.
No,
Um, there are people that do benefit financially,
financially.
but the political provoke, manipulate, I don't know. It's that's a little there. That could be there, but I don't think it's a big deal. So UFOs are could be a conspiracy theory. But I think you could look at anything with this list and come up and say that it's a conspiracy theory. So, like, what's the purpose of this? This is going to be, those other things are awesome.
Anything can do that.
Anything can be a conspiracy. Everything is conspiracy theory.
Well, what's COVID? Why is that a conspiracy? Are they trying to? What is because
I'm not really
because the
sure.
vaccines are
I think
doing
it's,
something to
I,
us, or
I think it's the
that's
vaccine reluctance by people. There is,
yeah,
there are people who just don't want to get vaccinated, and I think that's a right. You don't need,
yeah,
you shouldn't force people if it's a true, and they're like, but you're going to kill your grandma. Well, then you're going to feel bad.
yeah,
I don't know, unless they, I think it's just a lot of pressure, political pressure, social pressure for people to get vaccinated, and a lot of people don't want to get vaccinated.
yeah. I don't care. You know
I,
what I mean?
I, I
That's a personal.
it's a
You know,
personal choice. I did it.
it doesn't affect me that you're not getting vaccinated.
Well,
Like other personal
one of the
choices
most
people make.
irritating things is that they were saying, oh, I got vaccinated, I got boosted, and then they were saying natural. You still had to get vaccinated if you'd had the disease, and natural immunity was not as good as the vaccine, which is just complete. This is the problem with a lot of this stuff, is that they kept throwing this bullshit out, which is contrary to scientific evidence. They were contradicting historical scientific consensus without evidence. And and people could look at that and say, no, they're not telling the truth. They're why are they
Yeah, you
doing that?
need to get it so you can be immune to it. And if it
Well,
doesn't kill you,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I got it. I got it. So it's like I didn't do, I had the initial vaccination and then I got it a year after I'd been vaccinated. So it's like they say that the vaccine lasts for a year, which is why they want, it's a terrible vaccine, which is why it's like the flu vaccine, I guess, which is why they want you to get boosters. And then I got it. And, now I'm not going to do it. It's like,
how bad were your symptoms when you got it? I don't think we talked too much.
I basically
You had to
took,
take a week off the show though
yeah,
because you were coughing.
yeah, it wasn't the coughing. It was more like the runny nose. Had a runny nose. It was some coughing, so it was like very phlegmy. It was like a
Super
medium,
cold, like a super
not
cold.
a super cold. It's like a medium cold. I was really tired, so I took like naps in the afternoon for like 2 or 3 days, and just phlegmy. It's like a medium level cold. This is the sort of thing that I used to go to work and school with. Just antihistamines and like blow your nose and spread it
Yeah.
around, give it to everybody. It wasn't bad, other than tired, a little tired. I think I still have my sense of smell. So I don't
That's
know.
the kind of scary part where people lose their taste, their smell,
I
and
can still taste things. I don't know. It didn't seem. It was annoying,
or
but it
was
was.
that part of the conspiracy theory
Yeah,
that
I
doesn't
don't
really
have
happen?
no idea. It was annoying, but it was like a medium cold.
Yeah.
It's, you didn't want to, I mean, you're blowing your nose and you're coughing a little bit. Although afterwards, I noticed I sort of like coughing and clearing my lungs for like a week or two afterwards. I'm still doing that a little bit. But that's, didn't have any problem breathing, just tired. Took some naps. I had some good naps. It's like, I should be doing that normally anyway. Nap time. Time for a nap.
I love naps.
I do too.
Um,
Naps
the
are good for
so
you.
you don't think we should quarantine? I mean, should we? This, they're
Mm,
still doing this shit at
they've got
work
rid of
where,
it.
yeah, you got
They've
to
got
quarantine.
if you've
Coming, I
CDC, the
mean,
CDC just changed their guidances though. If you are tested positive, I think you should stay home. If you've been exposed to somebody who's tested positive, the CDC says you don't have to do anything. You don't have
yeah,
to quarantine after that. So that's the big change. If somebody
you can
has it,
still go to work or whatever, even though you've been
oh,
exposed to it.
my thing is most of the panic is because people like, oh, I got a sniffle, so they do the test and they go, oh, yeah. I would view it as if if I was working full time and I tested positive, I'm staying home for 10 days.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was like, hey, I'm gonna get paid. I got a 10-day
yeah.
vacation. I'm going home, baby.
You're the kind of an employee that
Hey, I'm trying to keep you safe. Trying to keep you safe, man.
if you
Um,
test positive, but if you've been exposed to it, I don't see
no,
the reason for you to
no, not
stay home
anymore.
if you have not tested positive.
CDC has changed the guidelines, and what they said, if I remember correctly, if you've been exposed, you do not have to quarantine. You do not have to isolate, and you should test yourself at 5 days after your exposure, and
Yeah,
to see if you're positive. If you're not having any symptoms after 5 days, you probably don't even need a test. So, but that's their super test. So, speaking of testing, Congress had these big votes coming up, right? With all these senators, and they needed 50 senators to pass this bill to tax the middle class, put this big tax on the middle class now. And they suspended COVID testing for the senators before the vote because the senators test themselves. They're tested every day. So they suspended the testing to make sure that all the senators could show up for the vote because you got to physically be present to vote. So that tells you how serious the disease is if they're
yeah,
willing
they
to
don't.
suspend.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're going to suspend our mandatory daily testing so everybody can be here. So
well,
what's going
Biden's
on with
got it
that?
twice. Biden
Yes.
got it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's there. Apparently, the drug that you take squashes it, beats it down, but it doesn't get rid of it. So when you stop taking the $50,000 a day anti-COVID drug, it bounces back. Fauci had the same thing. So you take
Yeah.
it, you test negative. I'm feeling great. You stop taking the drug, and then it rebounds. So it's like, because you're testing every day too. And it's like, oh,
Yeah. Eventually, you're going to come up positive the way it goes. It's
well,
like, well, you just get it.
at a 3% false positive rate, if you're tested every day, you're going to test positive every 100 days for 3 of those days. So, yeah, test me every day. Mandatory work
Eventually.
testing every day. I'm going to get a 10-day
Vacation.
10-day vacation every 30 days. Give it to me. So,
Yeah, that's the problem I have with it. And as a manager, it's
yeah,
just like,
well,
yeah,
hey,
what are you gonna do?
you got to live with the reality.
Yeah,
You're
it's whatever we have
responsible.
to do.
All right, we're over. We're an hour 10.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. We welcome comments, questions, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook at Alien Probe. Visit us on Facebook. Check us out on alienprobe.net, our website, Twitter, and Instagram at alienprobepod. Like and subscribe to YouTube Alien Probe Podcast. If you're checking us out on YouTube, you can catch us on all podcast platforms, at least 62 of them. So you can listen to us on the way to and from work. Thanks to our senior producer, Robert Anthony, and of course, Dr. Bill. And you can listen to us on the way to school too.
All right.
Or wherever you're going.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see you. Watch the skies, everybody.
Watch the skies.